Good. Okay. On this workshop to order. Let's go ahead and stand. And
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
There we go.
So Mayor, this is a informational session. Our Public Works, our Natural Gas Director asked to have this, bring this information to you again. And he's unfortunately out sick today, couldn't be here. But just to provide you with information, and his recommendation was to, and you'll hear later, to kind of hold on because the prices have dropped as of a couple days ago pretty significantly. But this is to really educate you and inform you for potential future decision if we want to go this way for purchases. So I'm going to turn it over to our presenter.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name's Tom Jeffrey. I'm General Manager and CEO for Florida Gas Utility. It's a pleasure to be here again. I was here a couple months back. Basically, I'm going to go over what I talked about then. I have some new information as well. And then ultimately, we'll talk about what your options are as far as if you want to try to lock in some prices or not, okay, on natural gas through a futures contract or financial hedge, as they're also called. So I have handouts of these presentations. Be happy if you need one. I have copies. Do you know, does everyone have a copy of these presentations?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Do you have a copy of these? Okay, great. So, like I said, this first presentation, I actually have two, is virtually the same one I gave you a couple months ago. So I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this one, but I did want to use it to kind of refresh your memory, because if you're like me, what you heard 2 months ago may or may not still be in the brain cells. So.
I kind of read through this. Why am I looking at something I looked at a few months ago?
Yeah, well, but this is the basis for why you might want to hedge, because, and I'll just get right into it, okay? So, as we all know, energy costs and inflation have been affecting all of us here over the last 6-7 months or so. A matter of fact, a year ago, the prices for natural gas were about half of what they are today. They're about a third of what they were at their peak earlier this summer, okay? We were paying about $3 per decatherm a year ago. We paid as high as over $9 in August. And even we paid close to $14 or $15 in August, to be honest with you. And I'll explain a lot of that as well. But everyone's affected by that, whether you have natural gas delivered to your home for use or whether it's through your electric bill, because most people know it or not, in Florida, over 75% of the electricity generated is generated using natural gas.
How much did you say again?
Over 75% of it. And who's your electric provider here? Is it Florida Power and Light?
Yeah.
So you haven't really seen the increases on your electric bill yet, okay? And the reason for that is FPL and all the other investor-owned utilities in the state have been prohibited from doing any kind of hedging by the Florida Public Service Commission over the last several years. And when they go in to pass through their costs of their fuel to generate electricity, they have an annual cap that they can't exceed, and that cap is below what they're actually paying. So they are severely under-recovered, FPL, in their fuel recovery provision of their electric rate. And that won't change until January 1st, when they can reset that cap. And their projections, not mine, but FPL's projections, is that people's bills are going to go up by 40% or more starting January.
Now, doesn't that have to go through?
That's
That has to.
the Florida Public Service Commission.
Okay.
They go through that, but that's going to be approved if it hasn't already been approved. It probably gets approved early November is its time schedule. And it will get approved. These are prudent costs that they incurred, and they will be allowed to recover. Okay? spent half of my career or more in the investor-owned side, so I know the commission quite well, and they will do that. So I'll just spend a few minutes kind of refreshing your memory on this. Typical family projected to spend maybe as much as $4,000 more for energy this year. The global and national energy supply not keeping pace with the recovery from COVID. So demand is rising, but supply has not risen to keep pace with that. When you have that imbalance is when prices move. And in this case, because there's more demand than supply, prices increased. So national energy prices are still up over 100% over what they were last year. And the average Florida family will likely end up paying $3,000 to $4,000 more for energy. Maybe not in 2022 because what I said, but 2023. So natural gas isn't the only thing that's gone up. Everything has gone up in this country and globally. I don't need to spend too much time on this. But yeah, we're not, I don't want to compare us to Asia or Europe, but Europe in particular, their energy prices are probably 10 times what ours are. I don't know how they're going to afford their energy bills in Europe this year, but we're not in Europe. So part of this is the amount of wells that are being drilled to find oil and gas have not recovered from their pre-COVID levels. And so, once you drill a well and you find gas or oil, you deplete it over time. It's there, and you keep bringing it out until there's no more there, all right? So you have to continually replace your wells because some are depleted. That's the term they use in the industry, is wells are depleted. There's no more gas in them or no more oil left to get. And so that supply goes away, and if you're not replacing that, then your total supply just goes down over time. And so this is an indicator that because of various factors, that's not happening as of right now. So I'm not going to spend any time on this slide. Inventory is a big deal. Gas storage inventory in the summer months, typically gas is injected into storage, particularly for up in the Northeast and Midwest, because the pipelines were never constructed to meet peak demands. They're constructed to meet average demands, and then storage, they withdraw out of storage in the winter months to meet their peak demands. We have been well below the 5-year average, which is that solid red line. I'm sorry, the red line is 2021, the dotted line is the average. Over the last several weeks, we've gotten a lot closer to that 5-year average, which is good news because they're filling up the storage that they're going to need this winter. And that has been a driver of the increase in price because they not only needed to meet current demand, but buy additional gas and shove it into storage for the winter, okay? And then, so this has been updated slightly. Back in June, you see the summer months this year and heading into winter are up in the $8 to $9 range, and then it dropped off into that $4, $5, $6 range. As of last week, this winter averages were not $8.50 or so, as you saw on the line. They're down to just above $6. But the summer and the next 2-year period, it hasn't changed too much. It's down a little bit, but not a lot. And you still see the humps in the winter months that you saw in this chart. So we've seen the forward curve or the near-term curve come down about $2, a little bit more than $2. But we haven't seen too much change in the out years at this stage. Okay. And what we had been seeing is a steady march north on prices over time. This is a month-to-month snapshot through June, where June, as you saw in the previous chart and on this one, is above $8. Now we're in October. We're back down pretty close to that April 2022 solid blue line for their near term, and then the gray May 22 line for the next 2 years going out. So we've seen a moderation of prices. And why is that? Well, that's a good question, and I don't necessarily have a good answer for you. But the industry has done a good job in being able to complete some wells that were already in the works before this administration came into power and started to, do what they have done with respect to the fossil fuel industry. Again, as I mentioned to you a couple months ago, the Biden administration has not been a friend of fossil fuels, and they have done virtually everything they can to stop drilling, stop pipelines from being built, and et cetera. Certainly the Russia invasion of Ukraine has put a lot of pressure on global prices and has affected our prices in this country. So it's not all self-inflicted by ourselves. Some of it is external events. But the industry is pretty resilient, and the suppliers are pretty clever, and they're able to attract enough capital to go ahead and find additional gas sources, even though nothing new is being approved. From the time it gets, a permit gets approved until the gas supply comes online is like 3 to 4 years. So you have a long ramp of projects that have already been approved 3 or 4 years ago, and they're now coming online to give us a little bit more supply. So this is just a snapshot of your system's consumption and versus any hedging scenarios that you might want to undertake. Just to kind of refresh your memory, this red line on top is your actual consumption over the a recent 12-month period, and it's just duplicated over time. If you wanted to hedge 75% of the average, that would be this blue line, 50% the gold, 25% the gray. This green line is what you have under long-term contracts already secured, but it's not, the price isn't fixed. The price is a market price when you get there. But we've already bought a lot of this gas for you, and then it's priced at a current price, less a significant discount, usually 30 to 35 cents per decatherm discount. So that's what you had heard a couple months ago, is that prices at that point in time looked like they were going to continue to go up, and all the indicators were telling us that. But that didn't happen, and now the indicators are telling us they may not be going up that much or at all. As a matter of fact, prices have come down, especially in the near-term months. And so those are factors that you should consider as to whether you want to actually do any hedging or not. And we'll get to my recommendation here in a little bit. So, any questions on any of this background information?
Commissioners?
Okay. So let me bring up this.
Well, I just wanted to have one question.
Okay.
So, Tom, does, reduced usage or efficiencies have anything to do with the price coming down?
No.
Okay.
No, that takes a long time
Okay,
for that to occur. So.
thank you.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so this is just kind of a generic hedging presentation, just to make sure you have a clear understanding of what you are doing when you hedge and what you're not doing when you hedge, okay? So, and feel free to ask questions along the way here. So what is hedging? Hedging is a type of investment that is intended to, and this is critical, reduce the risk of adverse price movements in an asset, okay? So you're not going into this looking to beat the market and get a better price than what the market might otherwise offer. You're doing this to reduce the risk that prices may go higher, okay? And a couple months ago, that risk was extremely high, given all the information we had at the time. Currently, that's no longer the case. And that's how fast markets can move. They move every minute of every day, okay? And they latch on to any new market intelligence information, and that drives prices up or down, okay? So all commodities can be hedged, not just natural gas. You can hedge corn, apples, gasoline, whatever you'd like. If it's a commodity, there's likely a futures market for that commodity, okay? One of the ways to hedge natural gas prices, there's myriad ways to do it, is through the use of futures contracts. Okay, and that's all that we have been doing for members who have chosen to go down this path. We've gone out and bought futures contracts for them, which means what? It means, hey, I'm looking out in the future and I'm buying at a known price whatever I can negotiate with the counterparty, okay? And that's the price I'm gonna pay that month when I get there. So if I'm locking in May of 2024, okay, at $4.50, it doesn't matter what the market price is in May of 2024. I've already locked it in at $4.50. It could be $3, it could be $12, it could be $4.50. We don't know.
Thanks. So with this futures contract, I thought what we heard at the last presentation was, you're saying you'll be buying at a known price at that set date in the future,
Correct.
but wasn't there a requirement that we pay quite a bit up front
There is, normally, okay?
in
However,
this?
one of the recent changes that my company has made is we had a pretty limited line of credit that we could draw on when we needed additional money. It was only $7.5 million. We just increased that October 1st to $25 million. So for members like you that are small, don't have a lot of cash, you don't have to worry about posting the margin or any margin requirements. We'll take care of that for you, and you just pay the carrying cost of that, the interest expense, okay? So if you decide to hedge and we have to post $100,000 of margin for you, we'll do that with our cash. And you'll pay about 4% interest on that because that's our current rate for interest.
Okay. And when do we pay that interest?
You would pay that when the in the month that the futures contract is for, or months. Okay.
Okay.
So when that contract closes out, we would then, you would get the, whether you won or lost, right? Because prices are either gonna be higher or lower, plus the interest cost on carrying that margin for the entire period of time would be reduced from, also subtracted from that. So, but you don't put up any cash.
Okay, and that's a change from.
That's a change, right, that we decided since the last time we met, so.
And that's a significant change, because
It
that was,
is.
I think, something that we all were struggling with, is
Correct.
as small as we are, would we be able to meet that?
Correct, and we recognize that and listen to you all, and so we needed to upgrade our line of credit anyway, and since prices had basically tripled, we basically tripled our credit line on 7.5 to 25 million, and because we now have 25 million available to us, we can handle all of the members' needs, except for one member, that's FMPA. They're just too big. They already have 20-some million dollars already in margin that they've paid.
Okay.
So I can't handle that big an amount, but 100,000 or 200,000 we can handle. And it just makes it easier for you, it makes it easier for us. You don't have to worry about tying up cash with us that you may or may not have. And we do have the cash available, and you just pay the nominal interest rate that we pay. And we have a very good rate with the bank as well, so.
Okay, right, yeah, because not having cash is a big problem.
Yeah.
You don't got it, you don't have it.
Yeah. Okay. So I wanted, this slide here, I want to point out a couple things to you here. So this line from Texas coming all the way across into Florida, that's the Florida gas transmission pipeline system, okay? We buy gas on the left-hand side in this red, orange, and yellow areas called Zone 1, Zone 2, and Zone 3, okay? Most of the natural gas, this system was built back in 1960, okay? So there's not much gas that you can actually bring in Zone 1 and 2 compared to Zone 3. So almost everything that we buy is in Zone 3. When you buy a futures contract, the only place that you can buy a futures contract for delivery is at a place called Henry Hub. That's the H here in Louisiana. Unfortunately for us, Henry Hub is not, there's no way, they're not connected to Florida Gas Transmission. So when you're buying a futures contract at Henry Hub, it is not exactly the price you're going to pay, because we're buying gas for you primarily in Zone 3 of Florida Gas Transmission, okay? And so that difference between the price for natural gas at any point in time in Henry Hub and the price in Zone 3 at that exact same time is called the basis differential, okay? So that's important to keep in mind here as we move forward. Okay, so futures contracts, as I just said, for natural gas, they're traded at one location only and has been forever, and that's Henry Hub. Okay. Why Henry Hub? Because they have a lot of different pipelines that actually are in at that point. Just Florida Gas Transmission isn't one of them. Okay. So the purpose of the future contract is to lock in the future month's pricing to reduce risk and adverse price movement. Henry Hub is the standard for futures contract pricing for all natural gas. All other locations where gas is traded, such as the Zone 3 pooling point, uses the Henry Hub as a foundation for that particular location's pricing. Okay. An example, Henry Hub price, and these are made up numbers, okay, so they don't mean anything, but they're just for an example. Let's say that the Henry Hub price for August of this past year was at $9. And at Zone 3 pooling point, the price was $9.95. So that difference, that 95-cent difference, is called a basis differential. It has always existed, okay? Now, historically, up until July of 2022, the basis differential was only a few pennies per decatherm, okay? However, in July and in August, that went as high as $7. It was almost doubling the price of gas. It was doubling the price of the gas. Henry Hub back in July was probably $7, and we were paying $14 for Zone 3. Where normally we were only paying $7.10 $7.15, something like that. It didn't happen in July and August. It went way up. There are many reasons for that. I could go into them if you like, but they're all legitimate reasons. There was constraint, there was maintenance going on, all sorts of, it was kind of like the perfect storm. Okay. Those prices, that basis differentials come back down in September and October to about 30 cents, 35 cents. I have it right here actually. So for November, right now, the Zone 3 basis is only, this is next month, only around 13.5 cents. August, it was $7.
So it seems like what you're telling us is that we have two factors to worry about. We've got the natural gas price and we have the Henry Hub price, and it's totally
They're independent.
Well, and it's completely out of our control. With
Correct.
no futures contract, no purchases, whatever, it is what it is.
Right, so you can lock in the cost of gas at Henry Hub, but not today, not at Zone 3, okay? And the market does not generally offer products that will lock in that basis differential.
That's
Okay?
what I'm saying, that's just a
Right.
floating.
Now, we have been able to find those products on the over-the-counter market, which is well traded. I mean, it's not really risky or anything, but they're just not standard products, okay? We haven't found that those are reasonable at this stage, because the person on the other side who has to deliver gas at that price is looking back and saying, it was $7. I'm not getting caught giving you a 20-cent price and it be $7 and I'm eating the difference, okay? So there now is, when we first put this together, that product didn't even exist. Now it does. The market's responded to it. So I can go out there in the over-the-counter market and buy that Zone 3 basis differential and lock that in. But right now it's way over the market price, the actual market price, so it doesn't make a lot of sense to do. Okay. So here's the continuation of the example. So let's say for August that a member had locked in 30,000 decatherms for the month through a hedge for the October 2022 delivery. Okay. And they locked it in at $7.58 at Henry Hub, okay? So the October futures contract closes at the end of September, and that becomes the October price, okay? So 809 is in this example, is what the price closed at Henry Hub. And you locked in a couple months, in this example, it was locked in a couple months ago, 758. So you actually, in that example, you have a gain. You're not paying the market price at Henry Hub of 809. You're going to pay 758 because that's what you locked in the futures contract. So you had a gain of 51 cents. and you multiply that by all 30,000 decatherms, you would save 15,300. Okay? But as the example goes on here, we're not buying at Henry Hub, as you all just recognized. We're buying at Zone 3. So if that price was $9.53 for October, the basis differential between what the market was at 809 at Henry Hub and 953 is called the basis differential, is $1.44. So we actually would have bought the 30,000 decatherms of gas at market price for Zone 3, $9.53, and that would have been $285,900. But you didn't lock in at the 809, you locked in below that. So you have a gain of $15,300, which reduces your cost. So you're still better off than you would have been if you hadn't put in the hedge by that $15,300. So the financial hedge or the future contract is independent of anything that happens physically. Okay? Any questions on that?
So what, but in our case, we would have to reduce that savings by whatever our interest costs would be.
Yes.
Okay.
Right.
And I have no ability to calculate interest in my head.
No, me either. And I wouldn't have known how much margin that would have been required for that 1 month for 30,000 either. Let's suffice it to say, you're talking about hundreds of dollars of interest rather than thousands of dollars here. Okay?
That's helpful.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So that's really just what I had put together, just to kind of show you. So when you're locking in a futures contract, that's not necessarily locking in your total price for gas. It's locking in a portion of that. Okay. And now there are products out there that we can lock in that Zone 3 price. But right now they just aren't very attractive. Okay. So I have a handout here for you. This is where prices were as of the close of yesterday. Okay, so this is about as accurate as I can get because today prices are moving all over the place. So up, down, sideways, whatever it may be. Okay. So what you can see here is you really can't buy an October, we're in October, you can't buy an October future contract. You really can't buy a November because we're so late in the month that November is going to close out tomorrow.
December would be our first
So
month.
December really is the first month. So as of the close yesterday, you could have locked in prices at $6.16.6 at the Henry Hub. The Zone 3 basis product was at 39 cents, so you could have locked in a Zone 3 price at 655.6, the right-hand column, okay? If you had bought a futures contract and the Zone 3 basis contract. And you can see that the Zone 3 basis gets higher in the middle of the winter months. Well, it's all over the place. I mean, you can see it in July of 2023, it's still at 76 cents, okay? It's not at the $7 price that we actually saw this past summer, but it's still pretty substantial. Historically, we went back 20 years, and the highest we saw that differential was like 25 cents in 20 years until this summer. And then it just blew out and went to as high as over $7. Because it's not just on the first of the month price, it's every day that exists, okay? So prices have been falling, in particular in the near months, the November 2022 through March of 2023. The next 2 years have been bouncing around, but they haven't moved all that much in the last couple of months. They're in that $4 to $5 range, okay? So, basically the question for you is, are these prices reasonable where you want to do some hedging? Or because prices are falling, do you just want to wait and not do anything right now? And just instruct us, hey, if we start to see market forces and other things that are changing that we would come back to you and you could make some decision at a future date fairly quickly.
How long do we lock these things in for? A year?
You can do as short as 1 month or as long as the market will allow you to do, which is 5 years typically. You can go out 10 years. You have to find a counterparty who's willing to take the other side of the transaction, right?
Okay.
It's a very liquid market for about 2 to 3 years, meaning there's a lot of trading, relatively speaking, a lot of trading that actually occurs for the 2 or 3 year period. Beyond that, not so much.
Yes?
But now, to follow up on Commissioner Burton's question, when she said, how long is a futures contract for? But aren't we are we having our individual futures contract, or are we part of your larger futures contract?
No, we would lock in, we need from you 3 things. If you want to proceed with hedging, I need 3 things from you. What term do you want? When do you want to start this? When do you want to end it? Is it 1 month? Is it 1 year? Is it 2 years? Whatever, okay? I need to know the quantity that you want, and that can be a percentage basis or an actual number, okay? And then I need to know what the strike price is that you're willing to pay, the maximum price that you're willing to pay for that contract, okay?
But again, is this part of a larger contract that you do, or is this our own contract?
This is specifically for you,
We are individual.
Okay,
yeah.
Again, Dave's recommendation is that we wait and see what the prices, they've come down recently. So his recommendation is not yet.
Yeah, and that's my recommendation as well, is you don't really want to chase a downward market
Right.
and lock in, and then it keeps dropping.
And
Of course, no one knows how long it's going to keep dropping and when it's going to go up again, but we're looking at this data every day, all day long. This is what we do. That's why you hire us to do this,
it looks
because
like
we're solely dedicated on natural gas.
if we were to even lock in December, we would only enjoy 2 months possibly of savings. And outside of that,
Well, and again, this isn't whether you're going to save or pay more. It's can your customers afford this price? Okay, so I always encourage people not to look at it as we won or we lost, we gained or we lost. You mitigated the risk that prices could be a lot higher. Okay, because if all you're trying to do is win, then you wouldn't do this, because there's no guarantee you're going to win. You end up, more times than not, you end up losing. If you want to just say, if I hadn't hedged, I would have paid a little bit less than if I did hedge. That's very often the case.
So we're just waiting for one number, like right now you're saying in November it's gonna be 5.748,
Right.
right? And we're waiting for one number, let's say, like in 4/1/2024, okay, now I'm going down the ways here.
Mm-hmm.
For 4.52, that just, that's where you would lock in, because you would lock in at 4.52 for however many years, correct?
No, I can lock in April of 2024 at 4.52 today, okay? If I wanted to lock in May of 2024, it'd be 4.456.
So you mean I can take it month by month?
That's how it works.
So you don't just lock in one number?
Now, you can get an average,
Okay.
weighted average, and it'd be one number, or that is an option, or you can have each month individually priced.
Oh.
Okay.
So now which way would you recommend? Because I'm thinking,
What we've done for everyone, all the other members who've done this, is they've done it through the average price.
yeah, I was gonna say, because that's what I'm kind of looking at.
Right.
I mean, I don't know.
And so they're seeing pretty big gains, if you will, in these early months, because actual prices are high, and they locked in at an average price over a 12 months or 24-month period. So they're doing fine. When they get into next spring, if the prices come down these $4 or $5, they're actually paying a little bit more.
So the average,
In
when you
those
say
months.
the average, okay, is it an average over that year, or?
Whatever time period you select.
Whatever time period
Yeah.
you select, okay.
Yeah.
See,
If you can see this highlighted in yellow over here on the side,
Yes,
it cut off of, but that was the average price for the fiscal year ending September 30,
okay.
2023, was $5.82. So you would have been paying that, if you lock that in, you would have been paying that price every month for that period of time.
That period of time.
Right. Or you can go in and say, I don't want to average it, I want to pay what each month actually is. And you would pay that price on the right-hand column for each month. So the market does offer you both options.
And the payment is based on how much we use, correct? I mean, we use.
Yes, you don't want to hedge more than you use. We don't want you to even hedge all of it you use because it's hard to do that because usage is uncertain. So we're just looking at a percentage. And if you think prices are going to go up, then you might do a higher percentage. If you think you're not sure, you might do 50%. And if you don't think they're going to go up all that much and you still want to hedge, you could do 25%. You can do any percentage you want.
Yeah.
Those are pretty standard. And then, yeah.
How many communities, much like our size, are actually doing this?
Through us, I've got,
And which one, is there any?
I have Town of Jay doing it, and they're
Okay.
much smaller than you.
Yeah.
They have 215 customers. You've got 1,300 or so. Mariana, about the same size customer-wise, they're doing it. Palatka, right up the street, they're doing it. There's one other, not sure, can't remember the fourth one that's doing it. Lake City,
Like so.
yeah.
Okay, the third bigger, Mayor, could I ask a question kind of about that?
And then,
So,
of course, our largest member, FMPA, has done tremendous amount.
okay.
like I
Who is
said-
FMPA? Like,
Florida Municipal Power Agency,
Okay.
they're the same type of entity we are, but they're on the electric side. And they generate the electricity primarily using natural gas. They have a little bit of solar, but
Okay, but about what the mayor was asking about, out of all your customers,
right.
what percent are doing hedging, and then what
Yeah.
percent of the small customers are hedging?
So in small customers, it's probably about 20% of our members are actually doing something right now. Several others have heard the presentation and chosen not to take any action. And of the ones that are doing it, they have typically hedged at 75% of their average load. So pretty aggressive.
Yeah, I was gonna say, if you're gonna do it, I personally would be aggressive with it, but.
Again, these are, you all make those decisions and you give me the instructions and we execute. So, and we help you reach those decisions, obviously, so.
And as you start to see this, the market, if it changes, outside of what you're projecting now, I guess what you'll do is you'll just immediately reach out to Charles, Dave, and then we can, even if we had to do an emergency meeting,
Sure.
not an emergency, but a special meeting, we
Correct.
could do so that if we saw there was all of a sudden something changed drastically.
Correct.
And then we could make that determination, and at least now we're a little more versed in it.
Yeah.
So we better understand what it was, in fact, we were actually doing.
Yeah, this hedging with future contract is is something you should take a look at, whenever you're thinking about hedging, because this kind of gives you the basics. What are you actually doing when you place a futures contract? Okay. But yes, that's exactly right. And at this stage, the market is looking for any kind of direction. What's happening is demand going up or going down, or is supply going up or down? Are there maintenance issues? Is an LNG export terminal going to be offline or online? All these things go into play and come into play in determining, for the market, which direction its price is going. Okay. Unfortunately, we don't control the market. We only get to play in the market.
Correct. Last question?
Yeah, I'll open it up for public comment in just a second when everybody's done.
I've got a question. I've been reading several articles about an upcoming, dire winter because of the diesel fuel. You're smiling, you know what I'm talking about.
Yes.
How will that affect this?
If
Or do you have
it's a
any
very
idea?
cold winter, prices for this winter are going to go up substantially.
Right,
Okay? Nobody knows if it's going to be cold or not.
You
If
didn't
you-
read the almanac, the farmer's almanac?
I was just about to say, if you subscribe to the Farmer's Almanac, they say it's gonna be a very cold winter east of the Rockies.
That's what I'm hearing.
Right, but I see other forecasts that say, no, it's gonna be warmer than normal east of the Rockies. So who do you believe? I don't
I
know.
just heard that a couple hours ago.
Yeah.
It's gonna be.
Who do you believe? Nobody knows for sure. If they did, again, they wouldn't be here today. They'd be sipping a pina colada on a beach somewhere where it's nice and warm and they don't have to worry about the weather. But yes, a cold winter will have impacts on the winter prices. It should not affect the spring or summer prices next year, okay? And it's especially dire in Europe. If they get a very cold winter over there, they could be in severe
They're saying it's
difficulty.
going to be just horrible.
Yeah, and in any event, it's gonna be horrible from a pricing perspective.
Right.
I just can't fathom how much, you know, you've seen what they're doing. They're putting price caps on what can be charged to customers,
Well, they're also.
which means they're under collecting, and that just spreads the pain out over more time. But hey, how much pain can people take, you know, at any point in time?
And this is going to interrupt the movement of goods.
Yeah, yes. The market is smart. It will try to send as much supply to where it can get the best price. So if that's Europe, every molecule is trying to get to Europe. Okay? If it's Asia, that's where it's going to try to go. If it's this country, then it'll stay here. Okay? Fortunately, we can only export so much. It's specialized facilities. You have to supercool it. It has to get down to negative 250 some degrees. And you have to keep it that cold. Otherwise, it turns back to vapor and to gas. So in order to move it in a ship, it's got to be in liquid form. Okay? Which means it's got to be very, very cold, which means you need specialized facilities to do that. We are exporting as much as we can in this country today, but more export facilities are being built and will come online in the next 12 to 18 months.
Any other questions before I open up for public comment?
Mayor, I just
Yes.
have one observation. So it seems to me like the other piece of the puzzle, and of course David Frank can't be here today, is actually how much do we actually buy? And this, Tom gave us this.
Yes, that red line is what you
Right.
bought in the last 12 months.
Right, that shows how much we're buying, using, and then, because we currently have prepaid contracts, right?
You do. Now, they're at market prices,
Sure.
but you do have a discount, a
Right.
significant discount attached to that.
So we're already locked into those.
No,
No, we're not.
no. The
Okay.
financial hedges are independent of any physical purchase that we've made for you.
No,
Okay.
but I'm saying the little, the green line, the current
Yes.
prepaid consumption, so does that represent gas that we have committed to buy
Correct.
at certain prices?
Not at market, whatever the then market
Okay,
price
but
is,
I
yeah.
guess
So
the-
you have the price risk still associated with
Right,
that, but you've locked in the volume.
The volume, so
Yes.
in other words, we're already going to buy this much.
Yes.
At whatever price it is, so it's only the amount above that we need, that we could hedge.
No, you can hedge all of it,
We
again,
can hedge all of it.
yes,
Okay.
because
Change-
you've only
change the
committed to
dynamics.
buy the volume at whatever the then market price is at the month when you get there. Okay, it could be $9 when you get there, and okay, or you could hedge that and lock that in at whatever the price for that month is on the schedule that I gave you.
But these are separate contracts.
The total is separate.
Entities.
Right, the green line is basically the amount of gas that we have committed to purchase for you,
Okay,
but not the cost of the gas.
okay, so that was what I was not clear on.
Yes.
Although we have committed to buy that, and that's.
Yeah,
that's
it is not
initially-
price risk managed.
Right, as initially at market price, you're saying the hedge can apply to some of that volume.
That's correct.
Okay,
You can apply it to whatever volumes you want, quite frankly. So,
okay,
yeah.
all right.
Yeah.
At present, you say that we're buying at you guys gave us a percentage of a certain amount off of the price.
Correct.
And what is that percentage, first of
So that's locked in when we do these, and it's a specific dollar amount per decatherm
Okay,
for each
so-
of these,
so-
and the minimum is 30 cents off. So if the market price is $7, you'd pay $6.70.
70 cents. So now,
For that
how
gas.
long are we locked in to where we're, I don't know if locked in is the right word, but how long does that continue, that?
30 years.
30 years. So for 30 years,
You're gonna always get that
Get that
discount.
30
And that
cents.
discount will reprice periodically, so it could go up or down.
So yeah, that one fluctuates, but
Yes.
right now the minimum.
But the period of time that you're in, basically for the next 3 to 4 years, you're generally getting at least 30 cents discount. We're in 15 of these prepaid transactions, so not all of those are for you,
right,
right? But you're in several different ones and they each have a different discount,
okay,
okay?
so, now when we look at these prices here, so if I look at, this, $4.52, do I take 30 cents off of this?
Yes,
Well, but can that be part of this hedge thing, or is?
it's independent of the hedge. So you lock in a hedge price, you're gonna get 30
That's the
cents
hedge
off
price.
of that.
I am gonna get 30
Yes.
cents off of that.
You don't lose the discount by placing the hedge.
Okay.
You still will get the
That-
discount.
That's interesting too, that's a good thing.
And keep in mind, that hedge price that you lock in could end up being higher than what the market is at that time.
Yeah.
So it kind of erodes that, but you don't know.
But you
Again,
know-
you're not trying to beat the market,
No, but,
Right.
you know, you're just trying to make it,
palatable for your customers. They can afford to pay their bill. That's what you're looking for, is that.
I have just have one more question. So, but really, isn't Mr. Frank the one who's going to tell us what our customers can afford?
He would tell you what?
Mr. Frank who is going to tell us that what our customers can afford.
Yeah, you all know that much better than I do. You know your local community here and whatnot. So you have a much better idea of what they might be able to afford versus not afford. I can tell you they can't afford what they're paying in Europe.
no.
But Europe, they're paying equivalent, $30 to our $5 or $6, okay? And at the peak, they were paying $90 to $100 for that gas versus ours $5 or $6. So you can see the difference. Yeah, it's bad. It's very bad in
I'm
Europe.
gonna go ahead and open it up for,
Sure.
public comment.
You've answered most of it, actually.
Can you come up and speak, I'm sorry, as best as we can to, Charles, can we adjust any of that? I just wanna make sure that we can,
Can't hear you.
unless you can really project your voice. There you go, there you go.
You know what, Mayor, the closer he comes, the less the traffic draws.
Yeah,
Yeah.
That's a factor.
very nice truck.
Oh, that's,
My question was just the amount we have now and what we buy. We buy that at market price, and then does that go and get passed on to consumers? Is that what determines what we pay as a customer?
Yes,
Is it
we,
exact?
right now, it fluctuates
Right,
every month, the bill. And what the opportunity with this, as I understand it, is we could actually hold on to that savings or pass it on to our customer if we, if we,
You can, yeah, you have the ability to do what you think is best for the natural gas system and for your customers, okay? And so that any discounts that you're getting, you can decide how you want to, pass that on to your customer or not, okay? Typically, I think what you all have done is just passed on the actual cost and try to recover the actual
so
cost.
that's what I was wondering, that's currently how we bill, like,
Yeah.
that's why my bill, I'll use more therms and my bill goes down.
Yes.
Some months.
That could happen because the
And that's
cost
what-
of
That's
gas,
happened the last 3 months, yeah.
yeah.
It's just kind of confusing, I can't, it doesn't say anything on there about how it's determined, that's what I want to know.
Okay.
But what you guys buy the price from Florida Gas as is what you sell it directly to the customers at the same price?
I believe so, yes.
Yes, that's my understanding, and that's very typical in the utility industry.
Because of that fluctuation?
Yeah. If you're an investor regulated at the state, you can't make money, or you can only collect what you spend,
Right.
And they
That's
true
the
it
law,
up.
Right, yeah.
and that's law. And most municipalities do the same thing,
Mhm.
but they're not regulated at the state level like the investor.
So we can as
You
a
can.
utility, decide that we're gonna pass it on 20 cents more or less, sorry, or something like that.
That's correct,
Okay.
yes.
Because I just, I just did not understand. That was part of my question, was just really how we do our gas billing now, because it's not really explained to anyone. I just
Yeah.
noticed that, like, I use 7 therms or what, or it's, or I don't know what it is, or cubic.
Probably therms.
Yeah. You know, and 2 months ago I used 5, and it was more
Yeah,
than it was this month, so.
because the price we were paying 2 months ago was close to $14 per decatherm, which is 10 therms,
Right.
okay? And when you use 7, it was probably down around $9,
Okay.
okay?
And so, I mean, this is a way to just lock that in kind of and give a lot of, stability. Right?
That's what hedging does, it
Okay.
provides stability and removes that upward risk, price risk,
Okay,
okay?
that
But
makes sense.
but you're right on target there, it's not trying to beat the market,
Right,
it's
just,
trying to give stability and eliminate the risk that it could be $10, $15, $20 gas
Yeah.
that you end up having to pay out in the future
yeah,
months.
because I mean, we know how much we pay every month for 1,000 gallons of water and what that bill is, but the gas bill is always part of the, like, I don't know why.
Fluctuates.
It's,
It's because of the cost of gas and because it fluctuates every minute, every day.
okay.
And, you know,
And the other thing, maybe if it was on the other sheet of paper, I just didn't know how much, so we're buying 4,600 decatherms is like the peak? Or is that about what I'm reading off this graph? Is that like it during the winter? I'm assuming it's winter,
yes,
yeah, okay, so.
that would be in January was the,
was it-
and that's affected by weather, right?
Right.
So if it's cold, it was cold in January, so people consume a lot more. If it's warm, they won't quite hit that high.
We had a very significantly colder, it seemed, winter this past year. I know we
Yeah.
used a lot more of our heat than we had in the past. And our bill reflected that.
Mhm.
So are you saying we currently sell it to the residents for what we buy it, but we don't have to do that?
So the discount that you're getting on these 30-year contracts, you can do what you want with that discount money. Right now, it's just comes to you on your gas bill and you're just flowing it back through. So everyone, all your customers are enjoying that discount. If you needed cash for some reason, for something to purchase, you could just pass on the non-discounted amount, so that pay a little bit higher price. But now here's a source of cash for you to use if you need to buy a vehicle, you needed to, do something else with it. It's not big dollars because you're a small system, but, it adds up. So you have that flexibility. You're not regulated by the Florida Public Service Commission on how you bill, what you bill your customers. That's local rule. You
Something we
decide that.
consider, we still struggle to break even.
We have an enterprise that's not enterprising.
Yeah.
I understand.
I mean, basically,
Right.
it hasn't been enterprising,
Right. And so there are various ways to deal with that, right? You can cut costs, you can raise rates, you can find sources of money like this that you're not required to pass those savings on to your customers. And directly, you can do something else with that benefits the customers.
How many of your smaller communities such as ours actually do that?
There's several who are considering that, none that I know of are actually doing it yet.
Are those that are considering that, are those just like us where their enterprise is not enterprising?
Yes,
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay.
yes.
Mayor, I have one more question.
Sure.
That's a great way to put it, although it's sad, but is growing our customer base the main way that we have to increase our revenue or operating ability?
Absolutely.
Okay, and that's my.
That's the best way to do it.
Right.
Because the only other way I know of, if you're not growing your customers and you need more revenues, you have to raise the rates,
Right, and
which
then
nobody likes that, but
Well, I mean, that could lose us customers as well.
it could.
Yeah.
Their alternate sources of fuel are more expensive than natural gas, though. So odds are you won't lose customers. You might lose one or two who are just mad, and that it's not an economic decision, it's an emotional decision. But if they're not heating their water with natural gas, they're either going to do it with electricity or propane. Neither one of them are good options right now from a price perspective. Propane's even higher price than natural gas. And electric, as I said earlier, starting in January, FP&L, is when you're gonna start to see their rates go way up, way up.
Right, but, I mean, essentially, we did put some money in the budget for marketing this year.
Right, through us. We have a sales and marketing program that's well used in this state. I helped create it in my career. It's very effective at adding customers, especially in areas where you have the distribution line going down the street and you got 10 houses, but right now only 3 of them are customers. Well, you got 7 others right there with the main right in front of them. All you got to do is run a service line up and set a meter. Very cost-effective way to add customers.
Well, that's the key though, is to have the infrastructure in place.
Yeah. And you do,
And adding
in a large
customers sounds
result.
really easy, we need to go add customers, but just to add customers, like, I'm a customer right now, I mean, my heat, we're about to replace the whole heating system, the air conditioning, everything.
Right.
Well, we're going to a heat pump system,
Sure,
and we're taking the gas out.
right,
So,
that happens.
and a lot of people are already locked into that,
Mhm.
and it's like, they're not gonna go necessarily buy a new stove because they wanna convert from electric, so. There's
That's
other
true.
factors that have to play into that, it's not just
Absolutely.
going to a house and saying, hey, we're gonna hook you up with natural gas, and they're like, well, okay, what do I need to do? Well, you're gonna have to go buy all new appliances, you're gonna have to
That's
buy new
right.
appliances, you're gonna have to put in a new, water heater.
Piping,
So there's an expense on their side too in order to do that. It's
That's
that new
right.
construction that we need to be targeting.
Particularly, and you can comment on this, my understanding is commercial customers are really our best.
Sure.
We have one of the retired city managers, and he worked in Jacksonville Beach system, and the fact that they had mostly commercial customers was the reason he, approved and moved forward with it, because
right.
in his estimation, a mostly residential system is just never gonna make money, never gonna be profitable.
Again, you can make money on any system, it just depends on what rate you're willing to charge,
Yeah.
right? Versus what it costs you to operate the system, right?
So I think we have
So-
incentives starting to commercial as we
Yeah.
do development, try to get them to put in gas
Yes.
from the get-go, that'll benefit us.
You're absolutely right. The commercial is your best bang for your buck, okay? Now, Jack's Beach is much different market than yours. They have all the big hotels right on the beach and all the restaurants and all that. I'm not sure I've seen much of that here in Crescent City.
As new
But I haven't been everywhere yet.
As new residents come in, that's the gas.
Right.
It's converting. them
New
to gas.
construction is the easiest to get on natural gas. Once the house is built and if it's all electric, the odds of them switching are very low for the very reasons you just described, okay? But it does happen, and a lot of times, and the reason why these sales and marketing programs are successful in Florida is because you offer rebates to the customer to help them pay for that cost, okay? So you're paying for it, but your rates are designed to recover that money and make money off of these customers, so, or they should be designed that way. And we've helped you with rate studies in the past, and you've implemented those, so I don't know, I just don't see your financials all the time, so I don't know where you are with your gas system, if you're at break even or losing or gaining, I don't know. But that's something that we have been working with you on to be looking at regularly, so that, people don't mind when you raise rates 2, 3, 4% a year, because they don't really see it, right? It's when you don't do that for several years, and now all of a sudden you've got to catch up and you're increasing rates by 30%, people get mad at you. So my recommendation to all my members, LDC, local distribution members, is you should be raising your rates pretty much every year by a modest
Every year when
amount.
we're doing our budget, that's something we
Yes.
probably should also be taking into consideration.
Yes,
Is,
because your costs are going to go up. Inflation is hitting your costs. I'm sure it is. You're paying your people more because you had to, right? $15 minimum wage and all that kind of good stuff. So there are a lot of pressures on your costs that are increasing your costs. If you're not doing the same on the revenue side, you can do the math.
that's one of the things that, and I know that a lot of people look at it that way. It's like, well, when we don't increase something, everything else is increased on us, and we're bearing that burden. We're having to try to figure out a way to bear that burden.
Right, and this is an asset to the city, like I said, an enterprise, it's a business. It needs to be treated that way, and it needs to make money. That's how utilities stay healthy, is by making money. And you all are investing in that, and the city should get a return out of its investment through a general fund transfer. You know, City of Gainesville, you know, they have that big utility there, they're getting $35 million a year from that utility.
And instead, we're putting money into it.
Instead, you're throwing money at it, right? Instead of
We can't do that.
getting money from your asset. You know,
Right.
just like water, sewer, they all should be making money.
Make water, exactly.
They should all be making money because you are taking the risk of investing in it. You should get some reward for that risk. And that can help keep property tax rates down and whatnot, so.
Well, I guess, to me, this has been extremely informative. This isn't exactly why we came here, but it's been very
Well,
helpful
I
to
think
talk.
it is why we came, I mean,
Well, I mean, the future, but if it wasn't for the skyrocketing cost of energy, and we came here to discuss futures, but we've also discussed something very important about our enterprise fund. So it seems like it makes sense when it comes budget time, to have the gas department actually tell us what rates we would need to have to make a profit based on their projected
Sure.
situation for the next year. And I don't know that we've specifically looked at it that way, but based on what you've said, whether we want to do it or not is one thing, but that having that information in front of us at budget time would be something to consider. And then just the other thing is I don't know, I'm hopeful that marketing might get a few more people. Today our power went off. There was a big transformer blow and I hadn't made breakfast yet. So I was really thinking how nice a gas stove would be. So, you know, and that's also true during the hurricane. If you don't have a generator,
Yes.
gas stove is really, really nice. So,
You might be surprised at how many of your customers have natural gas generators.
well, and of
Because
course the generators.
what we saw is
Right.
when, I don't know which hurricane it was that came through here not too long ago, and power was out, your usage for natural gas actually went up
yeah.
because many of your customers, I don't know how many,
And I think if we
But-
were to market, anything, it would be that if you're putting in these whole home generators right now, getting ready for next year's season, this is the best way to do it. This is the best way to do it.
Now, generators from your perspective are not good appliances because they don't run very often.
Right.
And when they do, they run a lot, but nothing else is. So normally, utilities don't encourage just the generator. They want to have something else in there so that they're sending them a bill every month. So, like a water heater is a very good, that's the number one gas appliance in Florida is the water heater.
I'll tell you what, I just put a water heater in, I love it, and I always cook with gas. I put it in.
The range
Gas
is-
stove in when we
right.
moved into that house, that was an electric swap.
Do you have an on-demand hot water heater?
Yes.
I just-
And
that's the best
my
thing in the
motto is,
world.
I live here in Crescent City, I should support Crescent City. So I
Thank you.
buy their gas. Okay? That's the way I
We
feel.
thank you very much.
Well, I have been supporting them, but we're having a situation, and so with that, you know, and that's all we had was the hot water, and I still have that, and I'm not about to give that up because
It's
my
great.
20-30 minute showers are wonderful. But
That's the beauty of these on-demand is you never run out of hot water.
Yeah, they're wonderful.
You can turn the hot water on, leave it all day, and it'll be hot all day long.
all day.
And I have a pitch for the gas heater, even if you just have a little space heater. The gas heater provides more warmth than the heat pump. And you can actually run them both at the same time.
So the heat pump, the air coming out of the register or the vent is 90 degrees. A gas furnace is 105.
Well, here's my take, I'm from Vermont, and it has to be awfully cold for me to even turn the heat on,
Sure,
seriously.
yeah.
You know, so, of
Yes.
course, Michelle, I know, probably keeps her house at what, about 80?
No, I don't. We don't even turn the heat on until it gets below 65 because my
I'm picking
husband,
on her,
I
that's
know, my husband keeps it like a
Oh, that's
refrigerator
true.
in our house constantly,
I
so.
call mine the polar bear.
Yeah, my house too, it's, you know.
But
so we
everyone's
don't-
different, right?
I know, I'm just,
And
I
that's-
know
yeah.
she's Florida, you know.
We
Florida.
just have a 22-year-old system in there
Sure.
right now, so.
No,
we're
no,
trying to
absolutely.
figure out what's the, matter of fact, I'm meeting him this afternoon, so.
So,
No,
But
and
this
that's
is
the
very
difficulty of projecting usage of your
Yeah.
customers. The houses are different.
yeah,
Some are tighter
Right.
than others, and they don't allow, air going in and out as much as others. Some, elderly people like myself tend to use the heat more because we get colder more. If you're from up north, you're not gonna use it very much because this is wonderful weather. What's everyone complaining about? It's cold. So everyone's different.
Till summer.
And, how many people are in the
So
home,
much for
it makes a difference too, how many showers are being taken, how often do they cook? Is it 4 times a week or is it once a week,
I know, I love using gas, I do, I think it's great.
I've never cooked on gas, but everybody
Oh.
that does says they love to cook on gas.
Oh, yeah.
I don't anymore like to cook at all, so.
So one of our marketing,
See, now all these truths are coming out.
one of our marketing pieces that we have for your sales and marketing program is directed towards commercial, and it says 9 out of 10 chefs prefer to cook on natural gas. The 10th guy, he's sushi chef, he's sushi.
I like that, I think that's cute.
So,
Okay, do we have anything else that anybody needs to add? Charles, is there anything else while you have us all here together? Okay. Okay.
so again, my recommendation is, don't do anything right now. We'll come back to Charles when if we see there an opportunity for you to take action that makes sense.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, thank you.
And thank you for looking out for us.
Well,
I think it gives us that sense of confidence that we at least are.
and that's the
and
value
security,
that
the
we
sense
bring
of security.
to all of our members is
Yeah.
we focus on this 100% of our time.
Mm-hmm.
You all have many other things that you have to deal with. This is one piece of the things you have to deal with. So, why wouldn't you want to have someone who's doing it all the time helping you?
Okay.
Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Tom.
My pleasure.
Be safe driving home, and with that, I'm going to close workshop. Thank you,
This
guys.
is much easier